Hi, everyone. I'm Sachin Kari. I'm a faculty at Stanford, and I'm running strategy here at VMware in the Telco and Edge Cloud BU. I also co-chair the ORAN Alliance. And today, along with Caroline Chan, who is the VP and GM of 5G infrastructure at Intel, we will be talking about ORAN. So ORAN is a transformative movement that is happening in the radio access network of telcos, and it is aiming to increase the agility, reduce the cost, and really transform what the RAN can be used for in the future. So the first question that a lot of people ask is, why ORAN? Why should I even care? And there's been a lot of talk in the popular press about Open RAN and ORAN, especially given the geopolitical issues that have been happening around the world. But fundamentally, ORAN brings a host of benefits that operators have asked for a really long time. So the first one really is around reducing OpEx. And ORAN is bringing the ability to introduce automation into the radio access network in a cloud native manner and allow you to increasingly automate a lot of manual tasks that have been performed over the last 2 decades to manage and optimize these radio access networks. Similarly, it's allowing you to build a disaggregated architecture and use off-the-shelf industry standard hardware to be able to run radio access network workloads and thereby reduce the capex of building out a 5G radio access network. So the 5G radio access network is actually the most expensive piece of the network. If you look at estimates around the world, it consumes between 60 to 70% of the cost of the 5G network is actually in the radio network. So reducing capex and opex is a pretty big deal in making 5G happen. But that's just more, on the cost side. Apart from that, there's kind of 2 other big benefits that ORAN is aiming to bring. The first one is to increase the agility of introducing new functionality to the network. So really make the network quite programmable, enable operators as well as other vendors to introduce new services in a faster fashion. And this ultimately leads to a much more diverse and innovative ecosystem of RAN vendors. So historically, the radio access network has been a closed part of the ecosystem. It's been really hard for new innovation to come in very easily and get introduced into this market. And ORAN is aiming to open up the interfaces, make the network programmable, and build a diverse ecosystem of innovative small companies that can bring new technologies into this marketplace. So that's really the goal of ORAN. And so now let me talk about what is ORAN, right? So what is it trying to accomplish? So if you look at the radio access network today, it kind of looks like this picture on the left here. And let me walk through that in a minute. So the UE, as you see it, is really your phone. This is your iPhone or your Android phone that you use today. UE is just a technical term for user equipment. And there is that talks to the antenna. And the antenna is where the cellular network starts. That's where the infrastructure really starts. And beneath the antenna is what is called the radio access network. So this is all the hardware and the software that actually processes your signals and converts them into packets and connects to the internet, right? That's how you communicate to all of your favorite services. Now today, this infrastructure, which is inside the RAN, the radio hardware, the compute hardware, the software that's actually running the radio functionality, the management layer of managing such a complex network is all in one black box, and it is implemented often in a tightly coupled manner into the hardware. And often the hardware is a proprietary hardware. So you kind of have a fully vertically integrated black box that constitutes the radio access network. And as you can imagine, this makes it really hard to innovate on. It's really hard to bring agility to such an ecosystem because it's one giant black box that's tightly integrated together. And this has really slowed down innovation in the RAN. So what is ORAN, right? So what is ORAN actually trying to accomplish? So we saw the gray picture that is the current network. And the way I like to think about this slide is that ORAN is trying to go from this gray-black world to this multicolored rainbow world. So what ORAN is really trying to do is peek inside that box, which is a gray closed system, and really deconstruct it, modularize it into different components that can be potentially supplied by different vendors. So the components themselves are the radio net and the software elements in the management plane. And ORAN is working on specifying open interfaces as well as specifying the architecture on how we should modularize the radio access network. So that's one aspect. The second aspect that ORAN is really working on is how do we ensure that these software elements can be implemented in a virtualized manner on off-the-shelf industry standard hardware. And so that's the other disaggregation that's happening. So fundamentally, what ORAN is trying to do is disaggregate via open interfaces and virtualization, and make the network elements themselves programmable such that you can introduce new innovation, you can introduce new technologies enabled by capabilities like AI and ML to really optimize these radio access networks. So this is a logical view of this architecture, right? And I'll walk through this in a minute and then hand it off to Caroline to talk about what VMware and Intel are doing to really accelerate this transition. So this is a 3-layered architecture. And the way I like to think about this is there is the user plane at the bottom. So this includes the cloud and the network elements, the DU and the CU. This is the distributed unit and the centralized unit. The middle layer, the blue layer, is the control plane. That's the ORAN RIC. The RIC stands for the RAN Intelligent Controller, and VMware is building a RIC in this space. And then the top layer is a management plane. So this is the layer of the network that's actually managing and optimizing this whole infrastructure. So ORAN has essentially logically decomposed the whole RAN into these different components. And there's all of these acronyms that you see here, E2, O1, F1. And the telco world is laden with acronyms, but these are essentially names of open interfaces that ORAN is specifying between all of these elements. Now, one risk, as you can imagine, that customers perceive is that if I'm going to go with so much disaggregation, with so much modularity, that's all great, right? It brings you a lot of flexibility, agility, and programmability. But how do I make sure that when these new components are introduced, they actually come together and work as expected and deliver the kind of mission critical services that 5G is expected to deliver. And this is where VMware and Intel are working to build a pre-integrated ORAN compliant platform to accelerate this whole transition. And really the focus is around one of the most critical elements in this whole RAN network, which is the DU, the distributed unit. This is the network element that is actually responsible for processing the signals and converting them into packets, and vice versa when someone is when you're trying to watch something, for example, on your phone, right? So the DU is a critical element. It's very latency sensitive. It's very performance sensitive. And there's a lot of nervousness among customers about, can we actually deliver such mission critical performance intensive software in a cloudified manner, in a manner that's programmable? And we understand and appreciate that concern, and this is where VMware and Intel are partnering deeply to build a pre-integrated platform. And so Caroline, if you want to talk about what we are doing as part of this partnership to accelerate this whole Open RAN transition.
So thanks, Sachin. So as Sachin mentioned, that this Intel has been in this Open RAN business for a while. We produce this FlexRAN reference software, which has over 80 plus licensees. We actually recently have several commercial rollout. One thing we do notice is that when it's disaggregated, the time to market is rather long. So one thing that we wanted to achieve with this partnership is to produce a pre-integrated solution that when our the OEMs pick it up, they have the confidence that this remove a lot of the barriers to allow them to quickly roll out. So a couple of things that we're doing. One of them is we tightly integrated, optimized with the VMware TCA and the VMware Telco Foundation, especially around the RIC component. And that is a key component that the VMware really differentiated their solution. We will produce and pre-integrate and optimize that with our ecosystem, the SApps, and with the DU software design. We also gonna do pre-integration with the Telco Cloud Foundation. We also gonna produce pre-test some of the RRUs, including the ORAN compliant RRU reference design that Intel is producing. So what we try to do is, like Sachin said, to significantly reduce the time to market barrier for the major OEMs to roll this out into the market space. So we're really looking forward to this partnership. We do believe that together we'll significantly advance the O-RAN product to the market. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. So as Caroline mentioned, just to summarize, really working together closely to make sure that we have all of these modules that tightly integrate Intel's highly successful FlexRAN reference platform for DU solutions in the RAN with the VMware Cloud Stack, which is the telco cloud infrastructure, the telco cloud automation layer, and then the new component, which is the VMware RIC, which is building a control plane for the RAN. But apart from integrations with VMware products, we are working with Intel on making sure that we also help the ecosystem here by taking a lot of risk away by integrating with things like radios. So I'll just wrap up by showing one thing that's already kind of borne fruit, right? So this was a partnership. VMware and Intel have had a long partnership, well beyond the RAN, and we also started working on this earlier this year and did a demonstration of such an architecture at Deutsche Telekom. So this was supposed to be demonstrated at MWC, and because MWC got canceled, we did it on Deutsche Telekom's campus. And essentially, this was the first instantiation of this collaboration, where end-to-end, we put together a system using Intel FlexRAN running on a VMware cloud with a RIC and an XApp from a partner that showed the whole end-to-end system working and showed spectral efficiency improvements because of the kind of programmability that Intel FlexRAN provides and the kind of abstractions and APIs that the RIC exposes for ecosystem XApps to program it. So a lot more to come. We are working very closely with several customers on trialing and productizing this collaboration. And we are really looking forward to transform the O-RAN movement together. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Shashi to switch to Q&A.
Thanks, Sachin and Caroline. That was fascinating, and understanding how O-RAN will really help the innovation in the radio network, which is a long time coming. And for those of us who've been in the industry for a long time, this is really an exciting time for us. Caroline, you gave us a little bit about why Intel and VMware are collaborating. Can you elaborate and say how this will actually help customers?
I think that the biggest thing, Shashi, is that we've been doing this work through POC, through early trials, and now through commercial since roughly 2011. So it's been a long time. One thing we notice is that because it comes in at disaggregated, the advantages, like Sachin said, is the flexibility, innovation driven. The disadvantage is that someone has to pick it up. I put the Lego boxes together. We wanted to, together with VMware, try to eliminate at least some of the long time it takes. As long as we can do the pre-integration, and more important, optimization, the testing ahead of time, it still leaves enough room for innovation, right? For the software vendors to come in to drive the innovation. It takes some of the hard work out of it. So that's why we think that with VMware, given our long partnership in enterprise, in the cloud space, this is a perfect time for us to take on some of the harder work ourselves.
No, it really will help in accelerating the adoption. That is fantastic. Sachin, can you give us some examples of, in addition to spectral efficiency, other apps that you're envisioning that will benefit from the RIC architecture in the O-RAN?
Yeah, I think the RIC architecture, in my opinion, is really a means for programming the network. And I think the way we like to approach it is, how will operators be able to monetize 5G, right? So when they roll out 5G, it's not just yet another network for broadband connectivity. They really want to be able to monetize 5G by providing differentiated enterprise services on top. And the way you differentiate these enterprise services is, instead of the enterprise services treating the network as a bit pipe, they should be able to program the network to get the kind of connectivity they need so that you can deliver SLAs to enterprises. And that's really where we see the RIC really playing a critical role, which is building an API from the network to the enterprise applications, applications such as SD-WAN, virtual desktops, which are increasingly relevant in this COVID world. So those applications being able to program the underlying network and get the kind of connectivity and SLA they need so that you can deliver a great user experience. So those are the kind of applications I'm personally very excited about delivering on top of the rig.
No, absolutely. That exciting times when we see that to come to reality. So Caroline, how do you see the future of this collaboration? It's been a great start. We've gotten a lot of positive press from this. How do you see this initiative proceeding?
Well, in the announcement, there are two key European operators that express interest. We're definitely going to pursue that. And in addition, like Sachin just mentioned, we don't see 5G as a pure consumer application, right? The real ROI is at verticals and enterprises. Given VMware's long history in enterprise, there's strong presence there. I think inside Intel, we see taking this to the operator, number one, open up the innovation. But because of the fact that you now have a virtualized environment, the cloud native environment throughout the network, like we talk about, cloud is now driving fully to the edge of the network. A lot of potential is really coming in with the vertical applications. Like we have done some, the Flexure has invested significantly in URLC, the Release 16, and the TSN element. We believe that with the VMware partnership and the innovation investment driven by the RIC, we can actually take this to many verticals. Venues, industrial, retail, medical, education. I think the possibility to take this and help the telco operators really drive the ROI through enterprise applications, monetization, I think the possibility is very, very promising.
It's true. So Sachin, what else do you expect from the ecosystem to really benefit from this partnership? What is your expectations?
I think the ecosystem, as it develops, there are smaller players emerging that are trying to bring new technology. And often their differentiation is around delivering, for example, the best network performance, the best radio performance, right? And but as they deploy O-RAN, as they try to develop an O-RAN product, they also have to worry about a lot of other issues, such as what is the cloud? How do I integrate with the cloud? How do I make sure this works with the variety of hardware, with a variety of radios? What's the management story? And this becomes challenging. This becomes a big barrier to entry for a lot of disruptive vendors. And so really what we are trying to accomplish in this partnership is take all of that risk away, right? So this is not just for operators, this is also for the disruptive vendors, really let them focus on the thing that they do best, the thing that differentiates them. And we can do all of the other infrastructure components around it. And that's how we think we can accelerate the time to market of such a transformation.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in terms of additional technologies?
I just want to echo one more thing to what Sachin said. So the last 10 years we're working on this, really the idea that people were bringing their own disruptive technology. It could be just a small piece of it, but because now we provide this platform that really adds in like a very large compute engine, you really enable them to come in and say, I got this widget, that software that really can help you either in a signal analysis, interference mitigation. They can plug it in. They can plug it in without having to worry about, oh my gosh, how am I going to automate this? How am I going to lifecycle manage this? This has really been taking that worries away. And we're hoping that through this partnership, we can accelerate the innovation cycle.
On that note, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.